There we go, much better with the sound on. Anyway, welcome to the nap, the no answer period, where we cover the question period, prefaced by a review of the far left eagle that has beset our land. But before we get to that, we will be covering what happened in the question period yesterday, which you will be seeing some of it in the intro. And then we will talk about it as we review the write-up from yesterday. The nap precedes question period by 45 minutes, which is why you're here now, and we'll cover the lower house until the government decides to stop showing up. We also keep score, described in the description below. We're streaming on 3 platforms, Rumble, X, and YouTube. And I'd like to thank all my followers and subscribers for doing so, and if you're not subscribed, please do so. And give us a thumbs up or like whichever platform you're on. And if you're on X, if you chat on X, we can't see your chats for some reason in Rumble Studio. It's just the way it works, but we can see the chats from YouTube and Rumble. So please feel free to say anything. And comments drive the algorithm when I'm not driving it down with my forbidden words. Except for the fact that, of course, the government has instituted algorithms to suppress anything that isn't officially sanctioned by them. So you're probably not seeing much of this anyway. And if you leave a comment, of course, it does help the broadcast. It does help to get it out a little bit somehow, and you'll get an answer. Either way, and of course, if you ask a question, please be semi-specific as to what you're asking about. That's the easiest way to do it. Drive-by comments without any specific questions are just the kind of thing we would expect people with, well, let's say, incorrect political affiliations when it comes to the reality of what's going around them. This is usually the way they're behaving that way. This is because they've been taught. They've been taught to behave that way. Anyway, let's go to the intro, and we'll be right back after. See you then. Bye.
I wish the minister would come to my riding and talk to people who are sick and tired of the government overreaching and spending more money than they have year over year. The reality is that this Prime Minister is just the same, except he's a sequel. We all know what sequels are. They are worse than the first one.
If the Conservatives want the truth, we'll tell them the truth.
I'm just another liberal.
Because they saw the ambition in that speech, and not only did they see it in that speech today, as the Prime Minister stood with the Premier investing in new nuclear to ensure the jobs of today and the future, they know that the youth...
The only thing that's revolting are those answers.
Speaker, we will take no lessons from these Conservatives. Trust me on that.
The Minister didn't write the Prime Minister's speech yesterday, because it wouldn't have bored and depressed to tears.
It's really hard to follow, isn't it, Mr. Speaker?
All of those poor students stuck in that room. There he spoke about how they would have to sacrifice more and that it would take time to reverse all of the misery that has built up over the last 10 years. Mr. Speaker, young people want to have homes. They want to have jobs. They want to have hope. They want a budget that is affordable so they can have a life that is affordable. Will the Prime Minister introduce that budget so that Canadians can restore the promise of their country?
And we decide what comes next.
Know that this government has their back and will continue to do it. There's going to be a powerful statement for the young people of Canada.
Deficits are driving inflation. The more Liberals spend, the more it costs Canadians at the grocery store. 25% of Canadians are using food banks because they can't afford to eat. So when will the Prime Minister finally get his inflationary deficits under control so Canadians can put food on the table?
Mr. Speaker, Conservative members pretend to care about food insecurity, but then they call feeding children garbage.
Mr. Speaker, what's garbage was that answer?
Did the Prime Minister see the ad before it went out?
Of course there are too many people living in poverty in Canada, but there are significant initiatives being put in place by this government.
Being serious means being honest.
Mr. Speaker, the grand reveal has been
Canada's
made.
economy is in fact growing, Mr. Speaker.
Move on, man. Move on.
Point of order. There was some very unparliamentary language that we heard today.
Sets us up well for the new world order.
There's no unanimous consent.
For families.
Order.
Honorable Minister of Finance.
It's then.
I have a great deal of respect for my colleague, but I know it's Friday, but he must be reading the wrong question, Mr. Speaker, because the real question today is how Canada is ranking amongst the other G7 countries. And here, the IMF last week said that Canada will have...
I believe the progress that we have made in the partnership sets us up well for the new world order.
My comment by telling the truth that the answer was bovine excrement.
Financial mastermind, but it turns out he is just more of the same. He's simply Justin Trudeau with a better LinkedIn account. He found the government credit card and treated it like a hotel minibar, grabbing whatever he wanted and sticking Canadians with the bill. This Prime Minister acts like the government can spend endlessly without consequence, but it's clear that families are paying the price through higher taxes, higher inflation, higher interest costs, and higher prices for gas, groceries, and housing. So when will this Liberal Prime Minister stop running up the tab so Canadians can afford to live again?
That Conservative leader and his party best efforts to mislead Canadians about the economy. Let's look at some facts.
I just want to. I'm sort of still parsing that phrase, but. There are important issues we're discussing, and Canadians are watching.
Not doing is increasing the deficit. It's only up by 100%.
Speaker, reports say Honda has scrap plans to build a new $15 billion EV plant in Alliston at the cost of thousands of jobs. This is a direct result of Liberal policies that force Canadian automakers to make cars Canadians don't want. And now they're spending $2.3 billion to fund rebates on foreign-made EVs. With no consumer demand and no Kuzma deal in sight, it's no wonder manufacturers are walking away. Why are Canadian auto workers paying the price for the Liberals' failed auto policy?
But we also know that we need to be there for our sector, which is why we're investing in workers.
We can't blame market shifts for their own failures. The Liberal government told us for years the future is EVs. They just didn't tell us it was Chinese EVs. The government should be making it cheaper for Canadians to buy cars they want to drive. Built by Canadians. That's right. Instead, the Liberal policies are killing auto jobs and investment while subsidizing foreign-made electric vehicles like the 49,000 imported from China this year. Will the Liberals admit they are choosing Chinese automakers over Canadian workers?
Oakville.
Because this Prime Minister is selling out Canada's auto sector and doubling down on Chinese EVs. I want to know if he'll be riding in one in his motorcade. Experts have called these EVs rolling spy vans, designed to feed data back to servers in China. Heck, the Prime Minister called China our greatest security threat. But this government is still shipping 49,000 of them in, while our own automakers are shut out. Why is the Prime Minister compromising our national security and our auto industry to cozy up to Beijing?
As we navigate a trade war.
Comment by telling the truth that the answer was bovine excrement.
Minister said, quote, "We're going to move that train as fast as we can."
New record, the most hot air from a transport minister. These Liberals rejected Conservative calls to axe all federal taxes on fuel and save Canadians 25 cents a litre at the pumps. But let's look at what the Liberals do have money for. $200 million for a gravel pit, a launch pad, when the only thing these Liberals are sending into the stratosphere is the national debt. So when will this Prime Minister let real Canadians get ahead instead of just Liberal cronies?
Speaker, let's talk about facts. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker.
We'll listen to the Minister of National Defence.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, establishing Canadian sovereign space launch capabilities is going to drive billions of dollars in investments. It's going to create good-paying jobs. It's going to increase Canada's sovereignty. It's going to reduce our economy's reliance on the United States. It's going to support a commercial space launch and re-entry industry that could be worth up to $40 billion. This is what we're investing in. What I hear on the other side is what I heard from Harper, slash and burn.
The Liberals refused to come clean about $200 million tax dollars that they handed a six-person company of Liberal insiders to lease a so-called spaceport that is really nothing more than a gravel pit. $200 million tax dollars to a company that doesn't even own the land, that leases the land from the province of Nova Scotia for less than $20,000 a year. If taxpayers are not being ripped off, then why won't the Liberals release all of the documents surrounding this shady lease?
This is what we're investing in. I'm not sure what they're up to at all.
Mr. Speaker, there's more. The company's 2025 financial statements reported a comprehensive loss of $47 million and revenue of under $15,000. Wow. In other words, the company was nearly bankrupt until the Liberals came to the rescue and handed them $200 million tax dollars to lease land taxpayers already own. Isn't the reason the Liberals won't release the documents because it's just one big scam in which Liberal insiders are getting rich?
It never ceases to amaze me how opposed the Conservatives are to jobs in Nova Scotia. We have an opportunity to establish a new industry. The facility to which he points has had 2 test launches that sent Rogan beyond a 100-kilometer threshold. We are breaking into a new industry in rural Nova Scotia. Mr. Speaker, I ran for office to help create good opportunities in modern industry to deliver good-paying jobs for my friends, my neighbours, and fellow residents of the province. If the Conservatives continue to oppose jobs in my home province, they're going to continue to have 0 seats in Nova Scotia for quite some time.
The honourable member for Riding Mountain. Can't hear. The member may continue. It's desirable.
London South. Once again, the Prime Minister is padding the pockets of consultants, insiders, and elites while Canadians pay the price for his costly credit card budget. The Liberals blew $300 million on Prescribe IT with nothing to show for it. They said they were going to axe the facts, but instead they just embraced the waste. And now we learn that the Health Minister paid the Liberal-appointed head of the program $900,000 per year. No wonder they shut down a committee investigation into it. When will the Prime Minister cut the waste, cut the corruption, and look out for ordinary Canadians for a change?
Mr. Speaker, we have a new winner. Most empty slogans in one single question. The thing they could deliver, the thing that I think Canadians would appreciate, the thing that would add to the substance of this debate is whether he will cut the empty slogans and table that list of things that they think are inflationary spending and that they would cut and deprive Canadians of.
Point of order for the member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, Regal Lakes.
Speaker, I'd like to seek unanimous consent to table a document detailing the cuts Conservatives would make.
I heard a no, so there is no unanimous consent. Order. It's then. I heard it. I heard a no. I heard a no. So order. Routine proceedings will now begin. I see the government house leader rising.
The member may continue. Desirable. For financial institutions.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the member from Pickering, Brooklyn, for the great work she does in her riding and for recognizing the contributions for seniors across this country. Canada's new government is committed to ensuring
Not from the top, no. Once it quiets down, the member may continue. No. Okay. The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions may continue.
Mr. Speaker, we have so many members on this side, it's hard to keep track of where everyone is.
And we are back. I think we have sound. Yes, we do. Hey, let's get right into it. So, what I've been seeing recently is a lot more of these situations in question period where the speaker is losing control. The last time I saw this repeated occurrence like this, and with such frustration from the other side of the House with the refusal of the government to answer any questions whatsoever, was during the Brian Mulroney years, when you had the same kind of ridiculous hubris that they thought their food didn't stink, and they wouldn't answer any questions at all. They acted like kings, and eventually it was only a $16 glass of orange juice that took them down. Imagine that. $16 glass of orange juice compared to the $1.1 trillion of theft of our treasury by the Liberals, and still people are cluing in. Well, anyways, let's get into what happened yesterday in the lower house. Let's get straight into that Substack. So it was one of the most entertaining question periods in a while. Yes, indeed it was. It was very, very exciting and exuberant. I felt invigorated after that one. The Liberals only answered 4 questions. Yeah, they actually answered an extra question on top of the 3 that they usually answer from their own members. 3 canned questions for their own members, and one of the formerly NDP, now independent members, who somehow thought that anyone who spends their own money to get health care after not wanting to wait for the immigrant-stressed Alberta healthcare system would somehow break the system and slow it down, when in truth, one less hospital customer makes the queue shorter. And besides, these measures have not yet been implemented, so the members' questions seem to be pointless. And I say former NDP sitting as an independent, he is the one who is giving up his seat so Abby Lewis can run in his riding. Oh, we're still waiting for the announcement of that by-election. And right, so next, the Conservatives started with the biggest existential threat to the prosperity of Canada, the non-stop money printing and spending by the Liberals, as this policy continues to destroy Canadians' purchasing power. But Liberals don't care, as their response is always how much more money they are spending to stimulate growth, or as I like to say, investing, like they have continually done for and failed for 11 years straight. But this time they promise it'll be different, because they're spending trillions and indebting future generations in perpetuity, as they have no plan to pay it back, only the feeling that it will all work out. The common theme for Liberals is to do everything based on their cultural Marxist feelings. How's that working out for Canada? Not too good at all. I think we do have, let's watch this little Ford video here.
Minister's trillion-dollar debt means more taxes, more cost, and more of the same. After 11 years of Liberals, Canadians are now paying more on interest on our national debt than the government collects on GST and spends on healthcare. On healthcare, Mr. Speaker. So why won't they follow our Conservative plan to cut all gas taxes for the rest of the year? Is it because they have lost control of their spending, or is it because they simply don't care?
Now, that, of course, was the very first question yesterday. And for the first time since I started covering this last fall, Wayne Long answered the first question. That was interesting, but he didn't get very far, because, as usual, Wayne Long always has to start with some kind of aspersion, casting it upon the Conservatives. He always has to say something nasty about them in his start. But this time, I guess he crossed the line a little too much.
Secretary of State for the Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Despite that Conservative leader and his party best efforts to mislead Canadians about the economy, let's look at some facts.
I just want to. I'm sort of still parsing that phrase, but I just want to remind members that we cannot insinuate that somebody is intentionally misleading the House. And I don't know if that was the case.
That sounds like something.
So the member may continue.
Mr. Speaker, despite that leader and his party's best effort to mislead Canadians about the economy, let's look at some facts. The Conservative leader and his party best efforts to mislead Canadians about the economy, let's look at some facts.
to paint the wrong narrative. The facts are very, very clear. Best net debt to GDP in the G7. Strongest fiscal position in the G7. Second fastest growing economy in the G7. Mr. Speaker, wages are outpacing inflation. Despite the rhetoric on that side, Canadians know our economy is growing. We're going to build economy.
The honourable member for Newmarket Aurora.
Spreading the wrong message. Well, yes, you give enough rope, they'll hang themselves on it. Eventually, they always expose who they really are. Right? You're suffering from wrongthink, people. Right? You have to follow the government line. You can't be believing what other people say, even if they have facts to back them up, and they're not entitled to their own opinion. As you know, according to the Liberals, you have to follow the Liberal line. Now, I think I have another. No, I don't. Let's move on to the next part. So Wayne Long was the first to respond in his usual insulting manner. He proceeded to denigrate the leader of the opposition for misinforming the public, as you saw, by pointing out the Liberal economic failures, which the Liberals do not like. So they only respond by gaslighting, which the Speaker called him out on for doing, but it's about time. Long is one of the most performative, useless MPs in the Liberal side of the House, who is pint-sized version of Chris Farley's self-improvement guru living in a van down by the river. And thanks, I forget who had made that comparison on Twitter, but yeah, it's quite apt. The mannerisms are there. The only thing missing is, of course, is the big gut. After the second question, Steve McKinnon once again repeated the tired "give us your cuts list" narrative, which you saw at the end of the video with the sad music. The narrative that the Liberals have twice refused the Conservatives to staff at the end of question period through point of order and unanimous consent. In effect, Steve McKinnon is lying, once again, knowing full well there is a list, but the Liberals refuse to let the Conservatives staff it. This request for the list occurred twice more during question period. Andrew Lawton tore another strip off the incompetence of the Liberals for their uncontrolled spending, for which Steve McKinnon, his only response was by complimenting Andrew on his slogans, and then once again asked for a list of cuts that you saw. But yes, I don't know if you've been watching the committees, but of course the Treasury was called out on the sloganeering issue. I'm seeing my X feed keeps getting interrupted. So I hope if you're watching on X and it stops, it's not stopping until about 3:30. So you might just have to refresh. Let's do this again. In my video. Excellent. Yep, there we are. Weird. Now, the Liberals were asked why the Prime Minister needed over $500,000 for an airplane food bill, asking if he was sprinkling gold flakes into his cappuccino. Of course, the Liberals bragged about the Prime Minister wasting his money on trips and then went on to celebrate more National Socialist spending band-aids to be there for Canadians, after overtaxing them and not following through on the promised trade deal from the last election. Yeah, but you see, according to the Liberals, it's the Conservatives' fault for not supporting the government. And if you hadn't noticed, by the way, they dropped pharmacare from the budget. This was picked up, I believe, by, was it the NDP or the Bloc? They brought it up. I know I have a clip on it, but it's from days ago. And other people are just starting to pick up on it now. Yes, they just turned it off like that. I think there was also some funding also cut for the homeless veterans because, know them by what they do. This is the respect they have for the people who sacrifice to support this country. But they're the first ones to dole out money to all their cronies who haven't done sweet FA for this country. Right, I have a clip for that. The meal plan clip. Yes, let's do that.
The Honourable Member for Bellechasse, Les Etchemins, Lévis. While Quebecers are cutting back on groceries to make ends meet, we've learned that the Prime Minister has spent $524,000 on food for his plane, Mr. Speaker. How can the Prime Minister still look Canadians in the eyes and talk about inflation when he spends, for just one flight, the equivalent of several years' worth of an average family's income on food, all while driving up their grocery bills with his gas tax, Mr. Speaker? The Honourable Government House Leader. Well, let's talk about planes. The Prime Minister this afternoon is in Mirabel to announce the biggest order for airplanes designed, built and delivered by Canada in the history of our country. It's excellent news for Quebec. It's excellent news for workers in Mirabel. It's excellent news, an excellent vote in the confiance of Canada's economy and our workers. The Honourable Member for Bellechasse-les-Etchemins-Lévis. Now, Mr. Speaker, the reality is that this Liberal government is collecting record-high gas taxes and reaping the benefits of oil revenues, but that money seems to be disappearing into the pockets of Liberal insiders instead of easing the financial burden on Canadians, Mr. Speaker. When will this Prime Minister stop treating the national budget like an unlimited credit card? The Honourable Minister of Government Transformation. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And she's asked about lightening the financial burden on Canadians. Well, the first thing we did was a tax cut for 22 million Canadians. And then there's the groceries and essentials.
And then I will go on to list all the breadcrumbs that the Liberals are handing back out to citizens after overtaxing them to death and spending like drunken monkeys on meth. Well, the Blocs turn at question period turned to the trade negotiation failures, and being the more radical socialists than the Liberals are, demanded more wage subsidies, the typical death knell of socialist politics and economic destruction. Taxing, subsidizing, taxing, and subsidizing until the merry-go-round of money laundering back to the taxpayer gets lower returns each time because the Liberals won't stop printing and spending money. Canada doesn't have, and also doesn't have the gold reserves or economy to back it up. Regardless of the repeated promises of a golden future over the rainbow for the IMF, according to the IMF report, the International Monetary Fund, which in the past we only used to refer to and deal with to help third world nations. I'm sure the IMF report doesn't take into consideration Canada's credit cards being racked up with no plan to pay them back, though, right? The Liberals will keep gaslighting Canadians as long as they can. But let's look at this wage subsidies video.
History of the country. The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, it's been 1 month today since Donald Trump made his indefensible tariff changes, and Desjardins is showing that Quebecers are paying the price. Quebec is twice as hard hit as other regions. A quarter of our manufactured goods are now affected by these unjust tariffs. The employers of 170,000 Quebecers have been targeted since April 6th. It's therefore Quebecers, first and foremost, who need a wage subsidy to protect jobs and provide relief to businesses. We've been asking this now for a month. When will the government finally take action? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, we've just announced timely help for cash flow for that manufacturing sector, the small and medium-sized businesses that are affected by the unjust and unfair tariffs from the American administration. But, Mr. Speaker, good news today. As I've just said, the Prime Minister, as we speak, is in Mirabel today to announce the biggest order for airplanes in the history of Canada. An airplane designed, built here in Canada by Canadians. And we're very, very proud of that. And that is going to help Quebec's economy. The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, nobody is going to turn down aid. It's just that it's poorly targeted. Listen to the Federation of Chambers of Commerce, and I quote, "For businesses whose survival is currently at risk, however, this is insufficient." Mr. Speaker, aid measures that abandon those most at risk are not a success, they're a failure. And the businesses that are the most at risk, as Desjardins has shown, are disproportionately based in Quebec. It's Quebecers who are at risk. When will we see a wage subsidy to protect them? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, timely help, $1.5 billion, that's not nothing. That's on top of the aid that we have already provided to the forestry sector and to other industry sectors in Quebec as in the rest of Canada. But, Mr. Speaker, I note the Bloc Québécois' silence about this order of airplanes. The first thing they should have done today is stand up and congratulate this government and Airbus for having gotten that order. The second thing that they should do.
Aren't they ever so arrogant, eh? That's what they should have. They should have done this. They should have done that. There's no wonder why they aren't bullies. They really are. They don't know how to talk to other people. It's their way or the bloody highway. They have no respect for the Canadian taxpayer or the representatives whatsoever. Let's move on to the next part here. Now, with Honda closing down their plants and more workers losing their jobs directly tied to the Liberals bringing in Chinese EVs from the People's Republic of China, cars made with aluminum processed by Uyghur slave labor and by a country that kidnaps its own citizens to DNA order to harvest organs for those who can purchase them. These evil communists are the people the Liberals are in bed with, and more likely controlled by the exorbitant amount of embassy staff in Canada, who are not embassy staff, but probably PRC operatives working out of the secret Chinese police stations known to exist in Canada under the allowance of the ruling party of the country. So remember, it is the Quisling Justice Minister, who was not born in Canada, who is doing nothing about this at all, right? And they have not given us a foreign agent registry, have they? Nope, but this week it's all about last 18 hours or so. It's all a bit about Russia, mega, mega, mega. Please ignore the Indian and Chinese influence in our government, though. Yes, that's why we pay our propagandist media to send out our message for us. Now, we covered the EV part in the intro, and that was done by the Conservative, basically destroying the Liberals, who, of course, only answered with, National Socialist band-aids. Now, the Liberals were chastised for the wealth fund that still has no wealth to put into it. But don't worry. Liberals insist there is $10 a day daycare. I think let's watch some wealth fund.
In the future. The Honourable Member for Montmorency-Charlevoix. In 2024, England established a new fund that it explicitly refused to call a sovereign wealth fund because the fund is financed by debt, exactly like the fund that was announced by the Liberals last week. The Prime Minister should know this. He was advising the British government during that process. So the Liberals are using a term that has proven itself that works and that is appealing, but they're not using the formula that made that term successful. So why are the Prime Minister and the Finance Minister selling a pipe dream when they're continuing to run our country into debt? Are they taking Quebecers for fools? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, as we're building Canada strong, as we're building major projects, we obviously want to offer all Canadians the possibility to participate in that project, to participate in what we're doing that's going to create wealth for our men and women across the country, particularly in the specialized trades. And we want to offer increased participation to the entire country in the prosperity that we're creating here in Canada.
The Honourable Member for Montmorency-Charlevoix. Mr. Speaker, families in Montmorency-Charlevoix are taking on debt just to put food on the table. Meanwhile, the Liberals, typical Liberals, they have this new fund to create a $25 billion fund. Well, a real sovereign wealth fund is built with wealth by selling and developing our resources to Norway, Saudi Arabia, Singapore. We should take inspiration from those countries. The Prime Minister is borrowing to invest while Canadians are borrowing to put food on the table. How can the Liberals look families in the eye and insist that they are soundly and responsibly managing public money? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, just like other programs, the Canada Growth Fund, for instance, there is Indigenous participation in our projects. We have the Infrastructure Bank. We want to have the tools to develop and build a new Canadian economy. That economy will give people opportunities, job opportunities, but also opportunities for us all to create wealth in Canada for Canadians, and that is exactly what we're doing with the Sovereign Wealth Fund.
So they've gone out of their way to destroy the existing economy so they can create their new economy. That's all they're selling. Right? You can't go back. They keep saying, oh, nostalgia is not a plan. You have to accept the world as it is. What they're saying is that you have to accept the poverty that the Liberals have wrought upon Canada. Right? No, there's no going back to the conservative way when people had an existing middle class and they could afford food and gas. No, can't go back to that. No, you got to have more of us Liberals, so we can make sure we keep sending money to our crony friends and all their special interest groups rather than taking care of the needs of their populace. That's why you have all these giant big programs. Like, hey, let's purchase a whole shitload of planes, make a deal between Eurasia and Airbus, and perhaps get Bombardier involved in there. Or maybe send them over to the Mirabel plant. Either way, it's going to cause some retooling and stuff. It's a lot of investment, and there's still no guarantees on the jobs. And even though they made the announcement, is it real? We don't know because they lie to us so often. Was it just an MOU? Was it just a handshake and agreement? We don't have a clue, nor can we really trust this government in anything that they say. Now, the refusal of the Liberals to explain and open the books to the prescribed IT fiasco was reaffirmed as requiring another $50 million to turn it off. The buffoonery is off the charts, and so is the opaqueness of this government that will never open the books and show us where the money is going. So let's watch them prescribe IT.
The Honourable Member for Abitibi-Témiscamingue. Mr. Speaker, when you say Liberal, you say cost overruns. We already had Curam, which now costs $7 billion after yet another cost overrun in the economic update. And there was ArriveCan, Phoenix, and now we have Prescribe IT. This is software designed by the federal government to meddle in healthcare and prescribe medication. It costs $300 million, almost 8 times more than expected, and that $300 million is for absolutely nothing because no one uses the software and the Liberals are even pulling the plug on it. Mr. Speaker, why, once again, is our money going up in smoke? The Honourable Minister of Health. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me make sure things are clear for my colleague. First of all, the first bit of good news is that it's true that the Prescribe IT program worked well in Quebec. That's the first thing. What you have to know is that this program was, remember to speak through the chair, please. And when I came when I arrived here, when the new government came in, we looked at the program and we saw that the program was not working. And we decided to end it. So that's how we are managing taxpayers' money well.
There you go. You heard it. Oh, we saw it wasn't working, so we ended it. But, of course, she doesn't mention they're paying another $50 million to end it. They're not mentioning that the CEO of Prescribe IT was just fired because, well, he was doing an SHIT job. And, of course, she doesn't mention the fact that when they turned it off, well, there's actually 10% of the doctors who actually invested the time now to use it. They won't have a replacement for it. And she fails to mention the fact that what they're asking for is to open the bloody books so we can find out how the money was wasted. But, of course, they will never do that. Not as long as they are in power. Remember, this hiding their theft of the Treasury goes far, far back. Can we go all the way back to Catherine McKenna? Over, $600+ billion just missing for infrastructure, another infrastructure fund that was designed and nothing got built. And nobody knows where the money went. Where'd the money go, McKenna? Nobody knows. Nobody bloody knows. It was a wee charity scandal, the SNC Lavalin channel scandal. Scandal after scandal, theft after theft. And yet they still voted them back in because they taught them fear. They taught them to fear the Americans, to fear freedom, to fear their own best self-interest. Now, of course, the immigration also came up yesterday, as it should, but it only had one question.
Oral questions. Questions orales, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Despite these illusions, this Prime Minister has led to more debt, more taxes, more chaos, immigration chaos. He is just another Liberal.
Very sorry about that. That's the wrong clip. I put the wrong one in. There we go.
Member for Calgary Nose Hill.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister claims that he's taken back control of the immigration system, but that's kind of hard to believe. In the past year, his government has let in hundreds of thousands of new temporary foreign workers while Canadians can't find jobs. They have no way of tracking if millions of non-citizens on expired or expiring visas will leave. And now they're issuing visas to terrorists. And every time the minister speaks, somehow she manages to make things worse. Why hasn't the Prime Minister fired her?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Personal attacks, as I've shared with the House before, Mr. Speaker, and yourself, speak for themselves. What do we see on this side of the House? We're working for Canadians, putting in place the platform that every single Liberal MP ran on. It's being executed now. A decline in the number of temporary residents, a decline in the number of people seeking asylum, working towards and improving the international student system, a 70% decline in the number of student permits issued since 2004, an entry and exit system that is being strengthened in partnership with the CBSA. I could go on, Mr.
Yeah, you could go on. You could go on repeating a whole bunch of things, but you're not actually doing anything. You're still allowing hundreds of thousands of temporary foreign workers to come into the country, and you're not doing anything about removing the over 2 million with expired visas. But we know what you're going to do. You're just going to give them citizenship, and then you're going to just ensure that you are the elected party forever in Canada, because they're going to be so grateful that all vote Liberal. In fact, was it 35,000 already this week? There was an announcement that you're just going to grant them citizenship right off the bat, and that's why you created this backlog that's 85 years long for them to get to, because look at the problem here. The only solution seems to be just to give everybody Canadian citizenship, and we've seen that already. They have no respect for the country. I don't think there's going to be anything left, even if the Conservatives win the next election. Canada is completely toast. Completely. Let's watch what they're doing to our cattle industry and our food sources through this globalist buffoonery.
Proud of what Francophone scientists accomplished, Mr. Speaker.
Canadian farmers expect the government to defend them at the negotiation table, not leave them behind. Yet the Liberals constantly fail farmers in trade disputes. Canadian beef and pork exports to Europe and the United Kingdom dropped to 0 last year. And yet they're rushing into a Mercosur agreement despite the risk to Canadian cattle, pork, and poultry. Mercosur countries do not meet our standards on animal health, food safety, or the environment. So why are the Liberals rushing into to sign an agreement that puts our food security, our food safety, and Canadian farmers at risk?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Speaker, we are engaged in active negotiations throughout the world to create more opportunities for Canadians, to create more good-paying jobs for our farmers and for our industries across. Speaker, that includes a negotiating agreement with Mercosur, which is the 5th largest trading bloc in the world.
Right off the bat, you can see he's completely clueless. Well, we're creating good-paying jobs. Oh, yeah, and for farmers. Yeah, we know what good-paying jobs you're talking about there, and it's not existing jobs that are in Canada. These people have done everything they can to destroy family farms by unleashing the Canadian Food Inspection Agency upon them to kill their herds and flocks and not really give them any recompense whatsoever. They can just walk in and goes, they look diseased to me. We gotta kill them all. And there's nothing the farmer can do about it. Practically almost anything. We saw what the CFIA did at the ostrich farm. And then we saw what the CBC did, putting out a hit piece, completely lying to the people, because that's what they do as a propagandist outlet. The fact that the birds were never tested, right? They were never tested. I left that out of their documentary, I'm sure. Because they lie. They lie like a rug, all of them. Let's watch some more farmer stuff.
Member for Bruce Grey, Owen Sound.
Mr. Speaker, the Bruce and Grey County beef farmers have publicly expressed concerns about the ongoing negotiations with Mercosur. Quote, this just won't hurt farmers, it will weaken rural communities and reduce Canada's ability to produce its own food. In Ontario, where most imported beef enters the market, the impact on local farmers would be severe, unquote. Canadian beef producers are waiting to get more access in markets across the world. Shouldn't the Liberal government be prioritizing export market access abroad instead of displacing the Canadian cattle industry at home?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Because this is precisely what we're doing. We're living in uncertain times, and our focus is to create more opportunities for Canadian businesses, including our hardworking farmers, to be able to export around the world. In fact, if you
Uncertain times. There's that gaslighting again. Always selling fear, always selling uncertitude, right? A real leader, a real party that leads Canada and wants to give people hope would talk about hope every day. No, they wouldn't be trying to instill fear every single day about something. Always constantly saying, oh, we're in a dangerous and divided world. We're suffering a rupture. You can't go back to the past. Things are going to be rough. You're going to have to sacrifice more. No, no hope at all. And people are eating it up like free cornflakes. Now, is this a statement or is this the actual start? Let me see here. Oops.
And workers in my riding.
No, it's still statements by members. Sorry about that. It's so hard to tell. And of course, Cowichan was also brought up yesterday because the Liberals, they dropped the ball on that as well.
The honourable member for Chilliwack Hope.
British Columbians bought their homes, paid their mortgages, and played by the rules, but due to the Cowichan decision, they now face uncertainty as to whether their private property will be protected going forward. And instead of arguing in favour of those rights in the Cowichan case, this Liberal government told federal lawyers not to defend those rights through Litigation Directive number 14, a directive that is still active to this day. How can British Columbians believe that this Liberal Prime Minister will stand up for their private property rights when his government guidelines are telling his lawyers to stand down?
Now, I would play the answer, but it's useless because they don't answer. They just keep saying, oh, we're going to fight for Canadians, while never really getting to the core of the question. And welcome back, Chandra. Nice to see you. Got to bring up the chat window. There we go. Yes, happy Thursday. All right. So, is she done her statements by members? Are we finally going to go to the House here or what? No, another statement by members. Where are we at? 218? Okay, so if we're getting a statements by members now from the Conservatives, there has to be another statement by members from the Liberals after Jamie Schmal here. Which means, do we have time to watch that last video? No, we've already played it. Well, we do have time to look at something while we wait here. There we go. RCMP found no evidence of foreign interference in Alberta separatist movement, minister says, by the way, after all the buffoonery that's been happening and the propagandist exercise by all the mainstream medias that are very well paid through our tax dollars by the Liberal government, carrying their water for them. And then, of course, a lot of people are noticing, shocked. I'm shocked that CBC got it wrong. Oh, yeah. Yeah, they get it wrong all the time. Actually, no, they get it right for their boss. And Marty up north, a lot of people get a letter like this one last night. It's a cease and desist. So apparently a lot of them got this email that was sent to them. And if you go through and read it, and what does it say? My husband is a lawyer and has already been contacted about this. Note, their allegations are unsupported by evidence which could amount to defamation if not produced. Ask them for proof. Set email address, access the list, and warn them you will be seeking damages for defamation in absence of said evidence, right? So it's already looking bad. But it's not signed, as he noted, and then he tried to reply to the address to find out more information, and he got a blocked return showing that it wasn't a real place anyway. There we go. This Ron McKinnon, there he is, probably the last statement. And look, I'm looking at X. And 4 people viewing it, and the live stream just stopped. I'm sorry about that today. There's nothing I can do. For some reason, X keeps dropping off. And yay, there we go. We're starting.
Canadians are broke, they're lining up at food banks, and our streets are more dangerous than ever. Yet this Liberal government has spent over $742 million on a failed gun grab, while in Newfoundland and Labrador, hardworking Canadians are choosing between gas for their trucks and heat for their homes. This Prime Minister is wasting nearly $25,000 per gun to target law-abiding hunters. It's more costs, more corruption, and more Liberal waste. So when will this Liberal Prime Minister cut the waste and cut the gas taxes so Canadians Canadians can afford to live.
Here, here. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Well, Mr. Speaker, of course, we've cut the gas tax by 28 cents, but this member from Newfoundland and Labrador gets up, and maybe we'll ask her, because we haven't really had success of late getting that list of things that they consider to be inflationary spending on that table. We have no idea what the Conservatives consider to be inflationary spending. Is it the child benefit? Is it employment insurance? Is it small craft harbors? Mr. Speaker, Newfoundlanders and Labradorians want to know.
The Honourable Member for Long Range Mountain.
Well, Mr. Speaker, to start, Conservatives would cut $20 billion in consultants. The failed gun grab is another example of the $1 trillion of spending by this costly Liberal government. The Prime Minister is more interested in $524,000 being spent on food for his private jet rather than making life more affordable for hardworking Canadians who actually pay the bills. More cost, more cover-up, more Liberal waste. This Prime Minister is just another costly Liberal. So when will this Liberal Prime Minister remove all the taxes on all the gases for all the year so Canadians can get real relief?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, we're going to continue to focus on this side on affordability. We just launched a groceries and essentials benefit that will put up to $1,900 in the pockets of hardworking families. We just cut the excise tax, that's 10 cents. You combine that with the carbon tax cut, that's 28 cents. The spring economic update continued to confirm our economy is strong and growing. Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, we're laser focused on building a strong economy. That side can continue with the rhetoric and the riddles. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for York-Durham.
For weeks now, the Liberals have blamed external events for homegrown problems. Higher gasoline, blame Iran. Higher diesel, blame Iran. But yesterday, the CEO of Cenovus said it wasn't external events, but Liberal policies that were making resource development and investment in Canada uncompetitive. He said the industrial carbon tax incents industry to invest outside Canada. So Liberal policies equal higher costs and more debt for Canadians and fleeing investors. So will the Minister of Energy instead give Canadians a break, cut all the gas taxes for the entire year?
The Honourable Minister of Energy and Natural Resources.
Maybe he should read about what the CEO of Shell said. The CEO of Shell said Canada is the best place in the world to invest, and he just put $20 billion behind that statement, Mr. Speaker. And the CEO of Enbridge put $4 billion behind his statement. So maybe they should look a little harder in the paper, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for York-Durham.
Mr. Speaker, CBC is reporting that the Liberals will change the rules for resource development and pipeline approvals to allegedly try and speed them up. But forgive me, we've been here before. Last year, they promised big projects at speeds never seen before. If the minister was right, we'd have projects coming out of everywhere. But in that year, no project has been approved in the national interest. Nothing has been fast-tracked. Not one anti-development resource law or tax has been removed. It's beginning to feel a little bit like Alice in Wonderland, where the rule is pipeline tomorrow, pipeline yesterday, but never a pipeline today. So if that's not the case, will he tell us when the next pipeline will be approved?
The Honourable Minister of...
There was an expansion of the largest pipeline system in British Columbia. He would have heard there was $8 billion just being spent in Goose Bay. He would have heard there was $500 billion being spent on a new wood farm in Nova Scotia. He would have heard about the new transmission line between Nova Scotia and New Brunswick. I could keep going, Mr. Speaker. They should listen a little more carefully.
The Honourable Member for Montmorency-Charlevoix. After 11 years running Canada, the Liberals will have us believe that it's normal that the deficit is over $60 billion a year. While the Liberals squander billions, Quebecers are having to pinch every penny. A new Fraser Institute study has shown that Canada is going through a youth unemployment crisis. In 2022, youth unemployment was about 12%. It has climbed to 19%, something never seen outside a recession. When will this very Liberal Prime Minister finally start focusing on our youth's future when he makes decisions? The Honourable Minister of Government Transformation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I heard that question, and I certainly hope that the member across the way will support our spring economic statement, which will invest $6 billion over 5 years to train young people so that they can have job opportunities in fields like construction. We know there will be a great need for construction. Why? Because this government believes in building major projects, building the future of our country, and ensuring our economy is the strongest in the G7. The honourable member for Montmorency Charlevoix. Let's talk about major projects. The Major Projects Office has already spent $41 million. They have not announced a single major project. Properties are losing value. There's no retail jobs. There's no jobs in food and dining. All the government has created are new taxes and new red tape. The government wants young people to make sacrifices, but they say affordability has never been so good. When will the Prime Minister stop running up charges on the national credit card and start making sure our youth have a future to look forward to? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, my colleague has just noted all we are doing to invest in training so that our youth can enter the skilled trades where they will find well-paying jobs. Meanwhile, Conservatives, including that member, are opposed to us getting major projects done. They are opposed to the Alto high-speed rail project, which will create 51,000 jobs in Quebec. They are against the $18 million of planes sold by, that were manufactured in Quebec. They are opposed to all that we are doing to help the economy. The Honourable Member for Saint Jean. Mr. Speaker, today we learned that the Liberals have decided to speed up pipeline construction by cutting regulations. I guess there's too many rules. Why combat greenhouse gas emissions and ensure social acceptability when there's oil in the ground and money to be found? Regulations be damned. Conservatives are being edged out as the party that loves oil and gas the most. Soon, Liberals will be wearing I love oil and gas buttons on their lapels. Is there a single Liberal left who actually cares about the environment? And if so, what the heck are they still doing in that party? The Honourable Minister of the Environment and Climate Change. Mr. Speaker, I have said this once, I'll say it again. Our government is committed to continuing the fight against climate change and protecting the environment. We have a nature protection strategy which will invest heavily in the future of our country. We put in place methane regulations. This is something that people are looking at in other countries and saying, wow, Canada is showing leadership. We are doing our job, and I hope that the Bloc Québécois will join us. The Honourable Member for Saint Jean. Mr. Speaker, I'm sure there are Conservatives just itching to cross the floor to the other side of the House. This Prime Minister is promoting the monarchy and the tar sands. Gosh, Conservatives must really recognize themselves in this Prime Minister. We get it. The Liberals believe that the future of Canada should be built on dirty 19th century fossil fuels. Sure, we know what we're up against, but I have a simple question. What are Liberals who still believe in climate change waiting for to leave that party? The Honourable Minister. So, I would assure the entire House that this government is committed to continuing the fight against climate change. We are putting in the work. We will continue to put in the work. Look at our automotive strategy. That is one way we will reduce greenhouse gas emissions, while creating jobs in the manufacturing sector. Look at what we are doing to protect nature. Look at the regulations we have put in place to regulate methane. Our greenhouse gas emissions will be reduced by 400 megatons. We are putting in the work, and we will continue to do so. The Honourable Member for Jonquière. Goodness gracious, Mr. Speaker. The Liberals have adopted Bill C-5 to speed up projects so-called in the national interest. C-5 allowed the government to exempt itself from legislation that would prevent pipeline construction. Now the government has yet another solution to speed up pipeline construction. They will just shred the regulations. If the rules are making it too hard to move oil through the ground, just throw out the rule book. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals themselves set the goal of reaching carbon zero by 2050. Do they understand that they have just caused themselves to wildly fail in that goal? The Honourable Government House Leader, Mr. Speaker, Quebecers understand that major energy projects can change economies. That's what Robert Bourassa understood. That is what we understood. Be it nuclear energy, wind energy, solar energy, renewable energy of any kind. And yes, in conventional energy, our government will act. We will build major projects, but we will not stop there. We will invest in logistics projects like the Port of Contrecoeur and the Port of Saguenay, which my colleagues should know more about.
A shocking new report found that nearly 500,000 young Canadians were unemployed in 2025. That's a 57% increase in 3 years, and that's worse than the recessions of 1981, 1990, and 2008 for young people. Liberals ran over $1 trillion debt.
Unbelievable.
And they priced Canadians out of the housing market, the highest housing costs in the G7, and then loosened the foreign work restrictions and flooded the labour market. A decade of their support, and somehow every single door is closed for young Canadians. How is it that this government is locking young Canadians out of both the housing market and the labour market at the same time?
Unbelievable. The Honourable Secretary of State for Labour.
Speaker, Canada's new government is fiscally responsible. We've reduced the deficit by $11 billion. We're in the strongest fiscal percentage of the G7. Wow. Mr. Speaker, we're making investment in major infrastructure investments that are transform and connect our economy. Our workers know this, Mr. Speaker. Let's hear from our workers. Let's hear from the UA that's in that member's riding. This update delivers investments to expand training and a multitude of apprenticeship needs. It will increase youth, Indigenous and diverse participation in the trades for upcoming projects of national interest. Mr. Speaker, that's how you build a Canada strong for all.
Honourable member for Thornhill.
Despite all of that rhetoric, despite the $1 trillion in Liberal debt, young Canadians now make up over a quarter of all unemployed workers. That's double their share of the workforce, and they still can't afford a home. They still can't afford groceries, and they still can't afford to get ahead. Right. They are borrowing record billions on the national credit card to stimulate the same economy that they are cooling with record immigration, and they handed the bill to Canadians for all of it. At what point does any Liberal take responsibility for an entire generation that is priced out, crowded out, and left holding the bag for their incompetence?
The Honourable Secretary of State.
Again, this new government is fiscally responsible. We reduced the debt by $11 billion, the deficit by $11 billion, and we are in the strongest fiscal position in the G7. Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives, though, can't stand up and say they support Canadians while voting against all the supports that Canadians rely on, including youth. Mr. Speaker, they oppose tax relief, they oppose child care, they oppose dental care, the school food program, and national school food program. Who could be against that? So, Mr. Speaker, my question is, you can't oppose all of that, then claim you support it. You cannot have it both ways. So my question, Mr. Speaker, is when will they table their list of inflationary spending that they're going to cut?
The Honourable Member for Oshawa.
Mr. Speaker, young Canadians are working hard, getting an education and trying to build a future. But after 11 years of costly Liberal policies, they are still struggling to find good jobs. Yeah. Fraser Institute reports youth unemployment has surged to almost 19%, with young Canadians unemployed longer than at any point since the records began. When will this Prime Minister stop being just another costly Liberal and end his credit card budgeting so young people in Oshawa and across Canada can afford to work, eat, and get ahead?
Yeah, well said. Well said.
Honourable Member, the Honourable Minister for Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, I had the honour of being at BCIT, the BC Institute of Technology, earlier this week to talk about 100,000 jobs for young Canadians building homes and infrastructure. And the members opposite have an opportunity to support the spring economic update that dedicates $6 billion for training young Canadians to be part of our economy and to build the affordable housing that we need to house the young Canadians. Mr. Speaker, it's a great opportunity for us to build Canada strong. Thank you.
Honourable Member for Oshawa.
Mr. Speaker, Minister, when will these Liberals realize that they keep having to create these support programs because they created the crisis in the first place? And get this, even with these programs, young people are still worse off than ever before. So clearly, they don't work. Under this Prime Minister, Canadians are seeing the same old Liberal agenda we saw under Justin Trudeau, only worse, with more costs, more taxes, more debt, more on the national credit card, more of the same. Why are Liberals forcing young Canadians to pay the price for their failure?
Well said. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
Speaker, I understand the member opposite's concern for our youth, and I empathize with our youth, but what I can't understand is how that member from Oshawa can go and visit Ontario Power Generation and see the jobs that are being created in our region with the new nuclear project at Darlington. That's 21,700 jobs and a $2 billion investment through this government's efforts that she voted against. How can she stand here and lecture us about youth jobs in our region and our country and vote against the very supports that are creating good, skilled, trained jobs across our region?
The Honourable Member for Richmond Hill South.
After a decade of costly Liberal credit card budgeting, young Canadians are facing more costs, more taxes, more debt, more of the national credit card, and more of the same. This Prime Minister is just another costly Liberal who has surged youth unemployment beyond recessionary levels. Since 2022, youth unemployment has surged from 12.3% to 18.9%, and young Canadians are remaining unemployed longer than at any point since records began in 1976. Liberal labour and immigration policies are driving up the cost of rent, groceries, and homes for young Canadians. When will this Liberal Prime Minister end his costly credit card budgeting so young Canadians can afford to eat, work, and live?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Industry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our plan is investing in jobs and is supporting those private sector innovators that are bringing jobs, including to places like York Region in the members region, where AMD has a major facility there where they're centralizing their innovation supports in York Region, in Markham, bringing thousands of jobs. I recently visited the University of Toronto's Masters of Applied Science and Computer Science program, and every single one of those graduates now has a job in that program. It's because of the work that our government is doing, supporting the post-secondary system, supporting not only the industrial side, but the technology side. We're very proud of our record.
The Honourable Member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Mr. Speaker, objectively, their so-called plan is simply not working. Conditions are extremely difficult in this country for youth and for young families. The Liberals' $1 trillion of debt means less growth and fewer jobs, especially for those just starting out. Credit card budgeting, high taxes, poor immigration policy, these have all contributed. We see more costs, more taxes, more debt, more on the national credit card, more of the same. This Prime Minister is just another costly Liberal with no results to show for this way. So when will Liberals reverse policies that are objectively not working so that young people can get back to work?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
The International Monetary Fund has affirmed, Mr. Speaker, as we know, the sound fiscal framework that the government has embraced. That is also true of the key ratings agencies. But my colleagues keep talking about a credit card. Yes, there are Canadians, young Canadians included, who do have credit card debt. They want to make it worse, Mr. Speaker. They want to make it worse by forcing them to not receive the Canada Child Benefit, to not receive support for childcare, to not receive support for the school food program. They want them to pay for it. In this country, we believe that government has a role in fundamentally making sure that Canadians have a chance. That's exactly what these programs do.
Member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Mr. Speaker, this government has $1 trillion of credit card debt, and they keep telling us that everything is fine. Everything is not fine, but in the midst of this environment, Conservatives are offering constructive proposals to support youth and young families who are struggling. In the fall, we announced the Conservative Youth Jobs Plan. Just today, we announced big new ideas to reform parental leave to make it easier to start and grow a family. Now, instead of doubling down on more of the same failure, will Liberals listen to and support the big ideas that we're putting forward to help young people and families finally succeed?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Here's a big idea, Mr. Speaker. Don't vote against childcare that's saving families in Saskatchewan thousands of dollars a month per child. One of the most effective measures to make sure that young families get ahead, that women can participate in the workforce, that women's productivity and wages grow along with their career, that CPP enhancements are there for women at the end of their career. You know what? Instead of these big ideas, Mr. Speaker, maybe stop voting against the big ideas that Canadians have fought so hard for.
The Honourable Member for Repentigny. Mr. Speaker, Radio-Canada has just broken the news that the Liberals are about to scrap the entire pipeline regulatory framework. They already passed Bill C-5, which suspends virtually all federal legislation. But no, that wasn't enough for them. Now they want to limit all pipelines to a single environmental assessment, the federal assessment, which always gives a green light. Now they want to restrict consultation. So say goodbye to the Quebec consultation process, say goodbye to grassroots engagement, and say hello to climate change. Is this truly why Quebec Liberals ran for office? The Honourable Minister of the Environment. Mr. Speaker, I will repeat myself once more. Our government is absolutely committed to fighting climate change and protecting the environment. Looking internationally, we are global leaders when it comes to climate funding. Domestically, we are investing in a clean electricity grid. It is so important to reach carbon zero. This is so important to our future. They are complaining while we put in the work to fight climate change. The Honourable Member for Repentigny. Mr. Speaker, this is ridiculous. Liberals are planning to fight climate change with pipelines. According to Radio-Canada, later this week, Liberals will announce that they are scrapping the pipeline regulatory framework and talk about timing because Danielle Smith is coming to town tomorrow for her far-right family reunion. Who would have thought that the Liberals would get a standing ovation from Preston Manning's far-right think tank? What's funny is that for months now, the Liberals have been trying to cobble together a majority one floor crossing at a time. Wouldn't it have been easier for them to just merge with the Conservative Party? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, we know that transportation represents 20% of our greenhouse gas emissions, a significant amount. Now, our government is proposing a solution, a high-speed rail project, which will cross Quebec. It will be 1,000 kilometers long. It will get people from Quebec City to Toronto in 4 hours. The Bloc Québécois is opposed to this project. They are opposed to this major environmental project. How come the Bloc is opposed to the best thing we could possibly do to protect the environment, get Quebecers moving? How come Quebecers are opposing environmental policy? The Honourable Member for Lévis-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, with this illusion of a Prime Minister, it's more of the same. Everything costs more costs, more taxes, more debt, and the national credit card is maxed out. Mr. Speaker, the average Canadian family is spending $4,000 a month just to live another day under this Liberal government. What was once a dignified wage is now barely enough to survive on. How do they expect Canadians to make ends meet under this illusion of a Prime Minister? The Honourable Minister of Government Transformation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know what used to be more expensive for 19,000 Canadians? Dental care. But the Conservatives are opposed to our dental plan. People used to put off dentist visits because they couldn't afford it. Not anymore. These Conservatives also want it to be more expensive to raise a family because they're opposed to the groceries and essentials benefits that 12 million Canadians will receive. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Lévis-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, yeah, talk is cheap, but you know what isn't cheap? $2 a litre gasoline, $2,000 a month for a 2-bedroom, $17,000 a year to feed a family of 4. Mr. Speaker, we saw how bad things got this morning when a new liquidation-style grocery store opened in Granby, called in to manage the line of people lining up for food at 5 o'clock in the morning. The situation is desperate. The national credit card is maxed out. When will this Liberal Prime Minister finally take the issue seriously? The Honourable Minister. Talk is cheap. Is dental care cheap? Is support for 12,000 families in his riding cheap? People in his riding depend on our government measures. On June 5th, millions of Quebecers will receive our groceries and essentials benefit. They will receive the assistance we need because here, on this side of the House, we believe that prosperity ought to be inclusive. The Honourable Member for Chicoutimi-Le-Fjord. Mr. Speaker, $1.475 trillion. That is how much the Liberals have charged to the national credit card. Because of Liberal debt, seniors are being forced to choose between groceries and prescription medication. Young families are not able to afford a first home. Despite the illusions, this Liberal Prime Minister is more of the same. He is just another costly Liberal. When will the government stop governing for bankers and start governing for everyday Canadians? The Honourable Secretary of State for Nature. Mr. Speaker. That's an important question. Over and over, the Conservatives talk about illusions. Canadians are not receiving illusions in my riding. They are receiving real benefits. The groceries and essentials benefits is not an illusion. It is over $1,800 over a year for a family with 4 kids. These families will receive that money in just a few days. They will see that it is a tangible support because that's what we do on this side of the House. We help Canadians in the short term and invest over the long term.
The Honourable Member for Chicoutimi-Le-Fjord. Mr. Speaker, this question is important. If the Liberals really want to help families and seniors, well, they should start by closing the open bar in Ottawa. The Prime Minister is being irresponsible with Canadians' money. Interest on Liberal debt is costing more than $53 billion this year. That's money that isn't going to seniors, it isn't going to families, and it isn't going to public services. Well, Canadians have to cut back everywhere just to get by. Why does the Prime Minister refuse to cut red tape and cut unnecessary spending? The Honourable Secretary of State for Nature. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, I'll continue with things that aren't illusions for Canadians. The Canada Child Benefit. $8,000 per child per year. That's major. It's useful. Canadians are seeing the results because we are going through a difficult time. I just talked about groceries. The dental care benefit. Almost 18,500 people are saving up to $800 a year. That's the reality, and that's without counting everything that we're doing with major projects, because we need to invest for the long term. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Airdrie-Cochrane.
All veterans get from this Liberal government are excuses and cuts. The Liberals slashed billions from veteran services, leaving veterans facing longer wait times and fewer supports. And now they're covering up the fact that the housing minister hid $3 million they cut from homeless veterans, claiming they couldn't find any. Unfortunately, there's thousands of homeless veterans in this country, and rather than covering up these cuts, why didn't they spend their time trying to find veterans they could help? So why does this Liberal government always seem to find money for Liberal insiders, but never for veterans who fought for our country?
They're here. The Honourable Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, I thank my colleague across the way for the question and the opportunity to clarify that there has been no cuts to services and benefits offered to veterans.
That's right.
We continue to ensure that veterans have access to the services and benefits which allow them to be successful in their post-service life.
The Honourable Member for Sarnia-Lambton-Bequidwinong.
Mr. Speaker, I'm proud to be part of a government that's committed to defending Canadian trade and ensuring our businesses are not overly reliant on any single market. By opening doors for exporters and supporting small businesses to reach customers around the world, we're strengthening our economy and creating more opportunities in my riding of Sarnia-Lambton-Bequidwinong and across the country. Could the Minister of Women and Gender Equality and Secretary of State for Small Business and Tourism update this House on the historic progress we've made to diversify Canadian trade?
The Honourable Minister of Women and Gender Equality, Small Business and Tourism.
I thank the member from Sarnia for her small business advocacy. Mr. Speaker, I've got good news. We don't just have one, we have 2 new trade agreements that have made law with the United Kingdom and Indonesia, Mr. Speaker. Together, these agreements are going to boost our trade ties and give Canadian businesses access to markets that more than 340 million people. That means new customers for our exporters, new opportunities for our small businesses, and more good-paying jobs in this country. Mr. Speaker, that is how you build Canada strong.
Honourable Member for Calgary Centre.
Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Defence signed a $200 million contract for access to a spaceport that the company itself leases for just $14,000 a year. That's $20 million a year for a decade. Worse, the contract is backdated by a full year when no lease was being negotiated, while the company's own auditor warned it may be bankrupt. After the deal was signed, the company's stock surged, and a well-connected Liberal insider cashed out for millions. Will the minister explain how this is not another multi-million-dollar boondoggle, rewarding friends while taxpayers carry all the risk?
The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Needless to say, Mr. Speaker, the premise of the question is frankly stupid. Mr. Speaker, establishing Canadian sovereign space launch capabilities will drive billions in investments. It's going to create good-paying jobs. It'll increase Canada's sovereignty. It'll reduce our reliance on the United States. And it's going to support a commercial space launch and re-entry industry that can be worth up to $40 billion. That's what we're investing in. These are the essential capabilities that protect Canada and create massive economic benefits for Canadians, coast to coast to coast.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Centre.
Let me explain stupid to the minister. He gifted $20 million backdated to a company on the brink of bankruptcy. The company's chairman, someone with a history of securities infractions, made millions on a quick pump and dump sale of shares. The lease the taxpayers are paying for is nowhere in the company's previous regulatory filings. The company's Liberal insiders met with officials 158 times. Someone's going to face the music here. Will it be the Liberal insiders who are stuffing money into their jeans, or the minister who signed this god-awful document?
Exactly. The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, you know, the interesting thing about all this commentary coming from the other side of the floor is this. Every single measure put forward to strengthen the Canadian Armed Forces, every single investment in housing, in equipment, in munitions, right, in our bases, in our housing stock, every single one, pay increases, all opposed. I'm not sure, Mr. Speaker, what these people stand for anymore, but it's becoming very apparent to the ladies, the women, the men of the Canadian Armed Forces.
The Honourable Member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, Rideau Lakes.
The Liberal government spent $300 million on the failed Prescribe IT program that had less than 5% uptake. Now that it's being scrapped, we've learned that the CEO responsible for this failed scandal-plagued program was being paid $900,000 per year. And when Conservatives looked to have the minister testify at committee, Liberals blocked it. So will the minister stand today and explain to this House the justification for paying this CEO $900,000 while Canadians are lined up at food banks?
The Honourable Minister of Health. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Listen, the situation with the CEO of that company is indeed unacceptable. As you know, this is a company that is not directly under Health Canada. However, I spoke with the board and corrective measures have been taken, and I can assure the member of the opposition that I am on this file and that I'm doing everything in my power to clarify all of the problems.
The Honourable Member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, Rideau Lakes.
Well, let me clarify some of the problems for the minister. They spent $300 million on a program that didn't work and wasn't used, and they oversaw the CEO being paid $900,000. And they don't seem to want to agree to have the Auditor General review this scandal-plagued program, and the minister doesn't seem to want to come to committee to face questions about it. So, will the minister stand up today and commit to having the Auditor General review this program in detail and report findings to this House, and to come before committee to testify about this failure?
The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I take the committee's work very seriously, the Health Committee, and I will come back to the Health Committee at a later date. As I have said, we have taken action. We spoke with the Board of Directors, and they have taken measures to revoke the person who is responsible for the company. I continue to work on the file, and I will take the necessary steps.
The Honourable Member for Moose Jaw, Lake Centre, Lanigan.
Mr. Speaker, air show organizers across North America are quietly being told that this is the final season of the iconic snowbirds. I wrote the Minister of National Defence almost 6 months ago asking about the future of the snowbirds. No reply. Senator Batters did the same in the Senate. Crickets. Tomorrow is the Snowbirds acceptance show in Comox. Why won't the Liberals come clean about their decision to cancel the iconic Snowbirds, and when will they reverse this terrible decision?
The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, the RCAF's fleet of Tudor aircraft was first introduced in the 1960s, and the fleet will reach its end of life in the coming years. The member knows this. The Snowbirds will continue air demonstrations with the Tudor fleet for as long as it is feasible and safe. The member knows that as well. And the Snowbirds remain committed to their performances. As we've stated, we're beginning the process of examining potential aircraft options for the Snowbirds mission once the CT-144 Tudor fleet reaches its end of life. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Moose Jaw, Lake Centre, Lanigan.
Mr. Speaker, jet noise is the sound of freedom, not white noise. Canadians want to be inspired by other Canadians. Do you know how we got the second female snowbird pilot? Because a flame was planted in her heart when she, at the age of 12, she saw the first female snowbird pilot. Why are the Liberals hiding the fact that they plan to cancel the Snowbirds after the season, and why won't they immediately reverse this terrible decision? It's SOS time, Mr. Speaker. Save our Snowbirds.
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I share the member's concerns about the future of the fleet. It's an iconic part of Canadian culture. He and I would agree. But here's the difference. Here's the difference. This member surely can't be suggesting he's going to put the pilots, the women and men of that fleet, in harm's way. Have him stand up, Mr. Speaker, make it plain that he intends to have pilots flying planes that should not be flown under mechanical watch today. Have him explain that.
The Honourable Member for Yorkton Melville.
Under this Liberal government, our Canadian forces' morale has been attacked, traditions erased, and attrition has become highly damaging to our capability to defend Canada. Canadian forces snowbirds must continue to be the souls of our Canadian military. They exude Canadian pride and international reputation for expertise, precision, and high standards that have given our allies confidence in us in the past. Will these Liberals do the right thing? Save our souls, save our snowbirds.
Yeah. The Honourable Government House Leader.
The Minister has spoken very eloquently about our need to be the adults and be responsible and to keep our pilots safe. And that's exactly what we're going to continue to do. But the temerity, the gall of Conservatives to stand in this House, the 0.99% of GDP crew here talking, giving lectures, will take no lessons on defense spending, on defense investments, on investments in our veterans, on investments in our armed forces, and equipping our men and women in uniform from those Conservatives who starved them.
The Honourable Member for Saskatoon south.
SOS, Mr. Speaker, save our snowbirds. The snowbirds are a proud Canadian institution based in the land of the living skies, Saskatchewan. We now hear the Liberals are going to cancel the snowbird program. It is unthinkable that we could see the end of this precision squadron that proudly represents this country at home and abroad. Will these Liberals reverse this mistake and keep our snowbirds in the sky?
The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, let's be clear here. Surely these members.
Oh, I really want to hear this. I really want to hear this. The minister should. The minister can start over.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, surely the members on the opposite side, including those who have distinguished service in the Canadian Armed Forces, they are not suggesting that we continue to put the pilots of these aircraft in, frankly, harm's way. They know these planes have got to be replaced. They know this assessment's ongoing. And lest I...
It's still too noisy. Still too noisy. Still too noisy. Does the minister have more to say, or... Okay. Okay, well, pardon? I know, I can't hear either. So, the minister, now that it's a little quieter... now that it's a little quieter, now that it's a little quieter, or just a little bit quieter... Yeah. Before, everyone in the House was calling for quiet. The Honourable Minister of National Defence may continue.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We'll try again. Mr. Speaker, as my House Leader colleague was saying just a moment ago, it's a bit rich. For a party that had funding for the Canadian Armed Forces and Defence below 1% of GDP, like, really, honestly, Mr. Speaker, stand up, join us as we reinvest in the women and men of the Canadian Armed Forces.
The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, if you think about one symbol that unites all Canadians from coast to coast to coast, it's the snowbirds. But now, for 4 questions now in a row that the Minister of Defence has gotten from my colleagues, and all he can say is, we're putting our pilots' lives in danger, and, what have they done for 11 years? It seems like we've known for a long time something has to be done, and now the snowbirds are in danger. What does the minister have to say to that? The Honourable Minister of National Defence. Mr. Speaker, here are the facts. The Tudor aircraft fleet was put into service in the 1960s, and it is coming to its end of life in the coming years. The member knows it. He's known it for a long time. The snowbirds continue with demonstrations with the Tudor flight, and they will continue to do so as long as possible and as long as it's safe. The snowbirds are determined to continue with their performances. The member knows that. We continue our good work. The Honourable Member for Beauport-Limoilou. Mr. Speaker, yesterday marked a historic moment. For the first time, 2 international trade bills received royal assent on the same day. These 2 agreements with Indonesia and the United Kingdom provide for the gradual reduction of many tariffs, with the aim of improving market access and the competitiveness of our businesses. As the Member of Parliament for Beauport-Limoilou, I know that this trade diversification is essential for Quebec City's small and medium-sized businesses and workers. Can the Quebec Lieutenant explain how these agreements will help SMEs in Quebec City and across the country grow, export, and create good jobs here at home? The Honourable Government Quebec Lieutenant. It's an excellent question. I'd like to thank my excellent colleague from Beauport-Limoilou, first of all, for the work that he does on the international trade. And it's clear, Exports in goods and services outside the United States went up by $33 billion over the last year, but we're not finished, Mr. Speaker. As he said yesterday, 2 historic agreements with Indonesia and the United Kingdom came into force. That represents 350 million new clients and new opportunities for our businesses. For Quebec, this means access to an Indonesian market that's worth billions of dollars for the forestry sector, the aerospace sector, and the pharmaceutical sector. It's good news.
South Kelowna. In British Columbia, land title certainty is foundational. Families buy homes, secure mortgages, and plan their futures on the strength of our land registry. But today, homeowners in Richmond are being told that certainty no longer exists because of the Cowichan decision. That ruling followed a federal choice. The Liberal government instructed its lawyers not to defend private property rights in court. In 2019, the Liberals adopted Litigation Guideline 14, telling federal lawyers to avoid defending property rights. That directive is still in force today. Why is the Prime Minister choosing Liberal ideology over British Columbia homeowners by continuing to tell federal lawyers not to defend their private property rights?
The Honourable Minister for Crown Indigenous Relations.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Cowichan case is still in active litigation, and we're not going to talk about our legal strategy on the floor. However, what we can talk about is the public agreement, which the Conservatives have called secret, the Musqueam agreements. They're available online, and I encourage my Conservative colleagues to read them. These agreements did not appear overnight. In 2017, Musqueam and Canada signed a Memorandum of Understanding. And in February 2026, that work evolved into a framework agreement. However, it's not a title agreement, it's not a land claim, so let me be absolutely clear, the agreement does not affect Canadian.
The Honourable Member for Abbotsford South Langley.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister claims he will defend property rights, but his Liberal government's own website still shows that Litigation Directive number 14, which was announced as a directive back in 2019, still remains in effect today. The directive instructs federal lawyers not to defend private property rights in court. While the Prime Minister makes promises publicly, his government policies have not changed. Will the Prime Minister reverse his directive today so British Columbians can have certainty of home ownership?
The Honourable Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, let's be clear. What is happening with the opposition is they are creating uncertainty and fear. They are intentionally scaring Canadians. They're making investors scared. And they're making reconciliation out to be a bad thing. Our government has appealed. We will continue to defend private property rights in Canada. Mr. Speaker, real leadership means working together to address problems, not creating more fear in the world. Real leadership is respecting the Constitution, respecting the courts, and respecting the work of advancing reconciliation.
Honourable Member for Pitt Meadows, Maple Ridge.
Mr. Speaker, British Columbians bought their homes, paid their mortgages, and followed the law. But because the Liberal government directed its lawyers not to argue for property rights in the Cowichan case, the judge did not protect private property. In 2019, the Liberal government issued a directive called Litigation Guideline number 14, which discourages federal lawyers from defending property rights in court. This Liberal Prime Minister has kept that guideline in place. In fact, it's still on their website today. Why do Liberals continue to tell lawyers not to defend homeowners?
Great question. The Honourable Secretary of State for International Development.
Let me be clear. The federal government is defending the property rights. The property rights are not at risk. The only people that are saying the property rights are at risk are the Conservatives over here and their counterparts in the province of British Columbia. You know it, we know it, Mr. Speaker. The Canadian government will always defend the private property rights. None of the treaty agreements take away those rights. We will defend the rights of Canadians. They are just disseminating fear in the hearts of British Columbians and Canadians for the wrong reasons.
The Honourable Member for Sackville, Bedford Preston.
Mr. Speaker, we know young people are the foundation of Canada's future. Can the Secretary of State for Labour tell this House what our government is doing through the spring economic update to invest in the next generation, ensuring they have both the opportunities to stay active and the pathway to build meaningful careers across this country? Thank you.
The Honourable Secretary of State for Labour.
Thank that member for all
of his hard work on behalf of his constituents in Nova Scotia. He's an excellent member. Our spring economic update, Mr. Speaker, is investing in the next generation. We are creating paid pathways for 100,000 Canadians to get into the skilled trades with a $6 billion investment, helping young people build good careers right here at home, Mr. Speaker. And we are making the largest investment in sport in Canadian history, so kids have the ability across this country to stay active and thrive. Mr. Speaker, these are some of the things we're doing to support Canadian youth and to build a Canada strong for all.
Member for Simcoe North.
The Prime Minister recently recalled MPs off a trip and delegation to Taiwan. He's been sitting on for over a year an updated and finalized trade cooperation framework arrangement with Taiwan. It's just awaiting his signature. And Taiwan has been patiently waiting for additional flights to operate to Canada, only to see the government recently fast-track and announce new flights with China. So what does it say to our democratic allies around the world when this Liberal government stonewalls Taiwan in favor of getting closer to an autocratic Beijing?
The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Actually, Mr. Speaker, the member opposite is not accurately reflecting the importance with which we take the Indo-Pacific region in general and including Taiwan, which is an important economic partner. We enjoy strong people-to-people ties with Taiwan, Mr. Speaker, and we will continue to ensure that Taiwan continues to be an important economic partner for this country as we diversify trade and double non-U.S. trade over the next 10 years. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Vancouver Kingsway.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals' privatization agenda is disturbing and dangerous. They're planning to sell off Canada's ports and airports, strategic assets that will end up in the hands of foreign buyers, compromising our security. When Heathrow was privatized in the UK, it resulted in Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and China controlling major stakes in that airport. Passengers paid more and services declined. Will the Prime Minister commit to keeping Canada's ports and airports in public hands, or will he sell our sovereignty to the highest bidder?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Minister of Transport.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Friend, of course, the Government of Canada is exploring all possibilities, but one thing we will not compromise on is we want to actually improve the travel experience, keep air travel in this vast and beautiful land accessible to all, and we want to make sure that pricing continues to favor Canadians' ability to move around the country. We want to explore all possibilities in terms of our safety and in terms of our accessibility and in terms of making travel and a responsive and comfortable and good and positive experience for all Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie. Mr. Speaker, the Earth has a diameter of 13,000 kilometers, and that's not going to change. Our resources are limited. It's not up for debate. It's just physics. And unfortunately, capitalism doesn't get that. We've already passed 7 of the 9 planetary boundaries. Here, the Liberals are missing their climate targets, and they want a new pipeline. It's just ridiculous. On top of that, they'd committed, along with Alberta, to take action on the industrial carbon tax before April 1st. And since then, nothing at all. The Prime Minister says that climate action is not just a moral duty, but an economic imperative. Does he even listen to himself? The Honourable Minister of Environment and Climate Change. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We are very clear that we need to continue to fight climate change while we put in place an economic plan for future generations. And we are doing that work. As I've said, we have strengthened our methane regulations. That's reducing greenhouse gas emissions by 400 megatons. We've made investments to protect nature, and at the same time, we are making investments at the international level to help other countries fight climate change. We are doing the work.
That ends question period for today. The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable, Lotbinière. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. During question period, the Government House Leader made statements saying that called into question some members, the words of some members of the official opposition. Do we have unanimous consent? So this brings us to the weekly statement, also known as the Thursday question. The Honourable Government House, Honourable Leader of the Official.
So maybe we should all pause and allow a little bit of time for the millions of Canadians to run over to their televisions to turn on CPAC so they can catch the Thursday question here in the House of Commons. But I would like to ask the Honourable House Leader for the government what the business for the rest of this week will be. And after our 2 constituency work weeks, where we will celebrate Victoria Day and hopefully spend some time with our constituents and families, when we come back, if the Leader of the government in the House can inform us what the business will be then. I note that there's a lot of chatter in the public about energy regulations and impediments to natural resource development. We've got the actual people who do the investments and do the developments and build the projects saying that this Liberal government is shackling them with unnecessary costs and regulation. The Prime Minister, who has had a year with his powers of C5, the Major Projects Office powers, has gotten absolutely nothing approved through that office. Will the government bring in bills to repeal the anti-development legislation that the Trudeau government implemented and that the current government with the current Liberal Prime Minister has kept on the books? Can we please start seeing legislation entitled An Act to Repeal? Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Government House Leader.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And like every, we are approaching the 2 constituency work weeks that my honourable friend described. And every good season must end with a cliffhanger. So that's why, Mr. Speaker, that the member will have to come back, stay tuned, and we will have, of course, legislative plans on a number of things that will respond urgently to the needs and desires of Canadians as we conclude this spring session of Parliament.
But for the time being, Mr. Speaker, tomorrow we will be studying Bill C-11, Act to Modernize the Military Justice System, at 3rd reading. And when the House will resume its proceedings on Monday, May 25th, we will continue debate at 2nd reading of Bill C-30, Act to implement the Spring Economic Update for 2026, and Tuesday and Thursday will be allotted days.
On Wednesday, we will start 2nd reading debate of Bill C-31, the Budget 2025 implement.
All right, well, that's it. So, like they do, they usually ask this one question, what's going to be the plan for the following week? And obviously, of course, he did not answer the question. They're not going to repeal anything. Nothing is ever going to get built. Oh, I know. They got these promises from the large corporation. So that means they're probably going to give them specific exemptions, but only because they're their friends. And all this money they're investing, I wouldn't be surprised if some of that money doesn't actually end up making it in the Treasury. Well, it seems like they spent most of the day talking about affordability and then was shifted straight into bad Liberal policy, and then pretty well talked a lot about the youth and how the youth are really effed over here in Canada. Now, if you look at all these jobs that they're creating for the youth, that are spending billions in our tax money to give them jobs for the summer, have a look at who's entitled and who gets picked first for those jobs. And as usual, everything the Liberals do, there's always some people more equal than others. So those more equal than other people will be getting those jobs first. And guess who's last on the list? Yeah, people that look like me, only much younger, obviously, because it's for youth. And any questions regarding, it was just outstanding to see the Bloc and the Liberals eat each other up over their insane net zero policy. Now, first off, I always like to say there's a reason why communist China doesn't have a climate policy, because they already have communism. And the rest of the world has moved on from the GFANZ situation, right? All those other European nations, if you look at them, yeah, they're slowly backing away from that zero bullshit because they're realizing it's too expensive and their people are pissed off. It's too expensive to live under net zero, unless, of course, you're a caveman and you don't need energy. Then it's perfect for you. But we have so much free land that's not being developed that apparently, we know, sucks in carbon. And actually, the more CO2 you have in the atmosphere, the better it is for your plants, right? It helps to green everything. That's why the Earth has a regenerative process like this. It works just fine. It's not going to change the weather, putting carbon underground. In fact, these bloody things can be pretty dangerous. There was an accidental CO2 storage release in one area, and a bunch of people died because, as you know, CO2 is heavier and it displaces the oxygen. And then you're done. It's like basic confined space 101. And I'm not surprised to see that the veterans are just being abandoned, as usual. And like I mentioned in the comments, as a veteran myself, I couldn't even bring myself to call Veterans Affairs after all the abuse I suffered under their hand, and especially because they refused to acknowledge COVID-19 vaccine injuries. They denied duty of care to other veterans. How can I talk to people that are so bloody evil like that? I can't even go on their bloody website. I know there was a bunch of stuff I was entitled to, apparently, when I got out to help me do this and that, but I couldn't even bloody talk to them because you just go into a fugue state of insanity, which I was going through the first 2 years after being released, after all the fucking abuse by these liberals and how they completely destroyed the military. So, yeah, they don't give a fuck about the military. The spaceport was brought up once again, of course, and the minister, I mean, it was explained, and if just like in committee, they absolutely will deny reality and then hope that the false message that they're giving in response will be what actually sticks in people's minds as opposed to the real truth. Because it's obvious, some money went missing. You gave somebody, you backdated it a year, and now they found more information on this that, all cronyism, never accountability for where all that money is going. And that's basically what's going to bring them down, just like it brings down every corrupt government, is that all the theft starts to pile up to the point where even their paid media won't be able to hide it anymore. The prescribe IT, of course, all they want to see is the book. And now we find out the guy was being paid, what, $900,000 a year? I think that makes him the highest paid public employee in Canada. Because we know that the head of this agency that they set up to build faster than ever that hasn't done a goddamn thing is paid almost twice as much as the prime minister. And then this guy here is paid even more. Something's hinky. We know all the money is just vanishing somewhere. And the whole line of questioning on the snowbirds was a wrong tact for the Conservatives. They should have talked to somebody in the Air Force and explained it to them. The Tudors are old. They're very old planes. They used to be our trainers. They are actually the training aircraft that they use over at the Canadian Forces School of Aerospace Technology and Engineering to give basic hands-on for the students because we had so many of them. And in the end, as trainers, once they were retired, they left us enough spare engines that they did not need to go through a refurbishment and inspection schedule anymore. So we had all these engines lined up, all refurbished and inspected and ready for installation, all of them, of course, with an expired time shelf life. And all they do is a quick flush pressure seal check and all good to go. And then they send it back off and they install it on the aircraft. And then once that engine is used and has maxed out on its hours, they don't even bother doing the inspection. They just swap it out, put in the next one. And that was their entire plan, which is coming to an end this year. So the Liberals, as mentioned, they had 11 years to come up with a plan to replace it. And I could tell you what the bloody plan was. The plan was way back when we decided to buy the F-35 before the Liberals canceled it and then decided to buy it again, then cancel it and buy it again. Now we're paying even more for it than ever before. The same bloody thing they did with the H-101. Ended up buying the Cormorant, and then we lost $1 billion avionics industry out in the East Coast that was going to be part of a program that we would have done with the UK and Italy at the same time. We would have been all three countries building the CH-101, but no, along come the Liberals under Chrétien. He goes, I will not drive the Cadillac. Yeah, so then we offered to pick him up with the Sea King at the Parliament, and he refused. And we're like, well, this aircraft's supposed to replace the Sea King, so why can't you fly the Sea King? We should have sent a search and rescue aircraft. The old Labrador helicopter, which used the same engine as the Sea King. Anyway, so the plan was, you got the F-35, you start bringing them in, and what are they replacing? F-18s, right? And we would have had enough of those to move those into the snowbirds for them to start using those. If you look at other nations, when they have aerobatic aviation teams, like in the States, I think they use F-18s too. And it would have been perfect. It would have been perfect for them. They already had a maintenance program. They already had probably enough spares to run it for a couple more years until you decided what to do next. Maybe by then work out a deal with the new trainer that we're renting to train our pilots over in Moose Jaw. You know? Or I guess we could have just went with a propeller airplane and said, hey, this is our performance team. But anyway, we can't afford anything anyway. $1.1 trillion, you're going to have to cut some money somewhere. So that's a lot of travel. And typically how they run is they have a maintenance team and they have to drive out to the next area, right? And then the tutors fly in. And then they do the show. And then when they need spare parts and stuff, if they don't have enough with them, then they got to bring them in. But that entire traveling show for the year, that's a lot of cost. It's not just the fuel, it is the maintenance, it's the spare parts, and then of course it's the meals and the accommodations. Yeah, it's nice for Canada to have, but really, what do we have left to celebrate when it comes to the military? Because as we've shown on this show, they have gone out of their way to destroy anything to do with what the military used to be. I don't know what it is anymore. Tampon dispensing, blue-haired, foreign nation, foreign army is what they're turning it into. Prescribe IT, of course, was brought up once again. And I already covered that. Crazy McKinnon. And you went a little off there when they were asking questions about the tutor. The Cowichan, of course, again, they continue to insist that it is the Conservatives who are fear-mongering, when really, once again, it's the Liberals that are causing uncertainty by their refusal to answer the question. And that's how they work. And of course, the Taiwan issue. Actually, I have a video of that on my site because last year it was brought up. There's a deal signed sitting on the Prime Minister's desk, Taiwan. At the time when they brought it up, it had been sitting on his desk since he became Prime Minister. So, yeah, it's been sitting on his desk for a year now. So it was 3 months ago they brought it up because at the time it was 9 months. So it's been sitting on the desk for a year and he's all about, we got to diversify. We got all these trade deals. Yeah. We know why he's not signing with Taiwan. Because he is a puppet of the communist Chinese. That'll upset his puppet masters. And as well, he's got Brookfield connections through his investments. They ended up taking a huge loan from a Chinese bank, and you don't get a loan from a Chinese bank unless, of course, the communists give their blessing. Same communists that kidnap their own citizens to harvest their organs from and use forced labor to produce the aluminum that is sitting in those EVs that they're sending into Canada already on the road here. So yeah, the Liberals are very well associated with very, very bad people, and we just can't wait for Canadians to wake up to realize how bad and evil they are. And then, of course, the climate change insanity just never stops with these clowns. We can't waste enough money on that because it's a giant Ponzi scheme making people like Barney rich with his net zero schemes. It has nothing to do with making Canada prosperous. It has everything to do with enriching the elites. That's all it is. Thank you all for coming out to the nap today. Let me look at the comment stream. It's a little busy there on the rant finishing, so I don't know if Chandra's already left. Yeah. Thanks, Chandra. Okay, well, we'll see you tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning is Blazing Kaffir Fridays. Yay! No prep for me, just reading the website. It's a quick half-hour show. Then we'll be back at 10:30 for the nap to cover Friday's house sitting. Now, look at it. You can see in the picture here, or see how empty the house is. It's going to look about that empty tomorrow, especially when they're leaving for 2 weeks. Or it'd be nice. It'd be nice if they all just stayed for one Friday once and then left the next day, just so we could actually have a good sitting on the House on Fridays. But I don't expect it. They got to get back to their homes. They got to get back to their writings. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens in those writings where people have crossed the floor with 2 weeks to occupy their time. Indeed. Well, thank you all for coming out. I super appreciate it if you watch it to the end. Extreme gratitude. Love to you all. We will see you tomorrow morning, or we'll see you next time. Thank you all for coming out. Bye-bye.